I don't ever plan to get married again, and I don't even know if I'll ever have a relationship again. Now, we're hearing that a lot on social media about women who are feeling this way, and particularly older women, but I want to talk about that. And I have a little different perspective on it. I'm not going to bash my ex. I am not going to talk about how horrible our relationship was, because it's not about him and it's not about our relationship. It's about what happened inside of me internally and how I transcended after my divorce and became me, a person that I wasn't prior to that. What I did in preparation for this video was I sat down and I really soul searched about how I came to the place I'm at right now and why. And I have a list of a few different points that I want to make. And bear with me, they might be things you've heard before, but I think it's going to be from a different perspective and a different way of looking at things. I want this video to be a positive message for those who are going through this situation or have been through it and just simply want to elevate their life. So like, have you ever found yourself in a room with somebody sitting like by them in the same room, or maybe you're laying beside somebody and there's somebody next to you, either way, and you are like in another place. Your mind is in another place. You're thinking about different things. You feel a little alone in your own head because you're not in the present. Well, I found myself doing this so many times in my relationship, and I think a lot of people can relate to this because so many of us do it. I mean, especially towards the end of the relationship. But I did it all along. And I think it's because I have always fantasized about this person that I wanted to be. But because I was always caught up in obligations, I never became that person. Like, I had my first child at age 19, and I had 3 children and was in a marriage. And then after that marriage ended, I had 2 more. And so I had this long span. So from age 19 until age like 57, I was a active mother. When I say active, that's, driving to and from, that kind of thing. So my youngest just graduated high school a couple years ago. And up until that point, my life was committed to other people. And I know so many parents can relate to this. My existence was to serve others and to make their life more meaningful, more pleasurable. I was to support them in their goals. Everything I did went against building myself. So I know that you can do that within relationships. So let's just get that out of the way. But I intended on being with this person forever, but things happened. And during that time, from age 19 to whatever it was, 57, whatever, I got lost in life. So after my marriage ended, I kind of found myself looking in the mirror, wondering who I was. And as I started living life as an unmarried person at a later age, I started recognizing how much I had suppressed about my desires, my wants, my goals, my ambitions, my wishes, just silly things. Some of these things are very small, but they translate, big internally because they're choices. So I'm going to go through a few of them And I'm going to share some of the meaning behind them. You may recognize some of these things. You're going to go, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But I want to have you look at it from a different perspective, an internal perspective. The biggest obvious thing is there's no relationship stress anymore, That's huge. Like when you're out to dinner and you look over at the couple next to you and they're all on their phones and they're not paying attention to each other. They're not talking. And, you're thinking, oh God, I don't ever want that in my life. And then there were also the zillions of times that there was stress in my relationship. And, there was all this quiet tension, whether you're out at a meal, whether you're in the house watching television, whether you're in the car driving somewhere, there's this silent tension, this relationship stress. And that's in addition to the relationship stress over finances, over child rearing, over in-laws, not to mention that constant thing that's always hanging over you, infidelities, the fear of infidelity. And that's a big one for a lot of women. I'm sure it is for some men too, but it's huge. Like, I don't have one friend that I've ever crossed paths with that wasn't concerned about that. So being on my own now, I don't have that. I don't have to go through that anymore. I don't have that tension and that stress in my life. And it isn't anything about men. I have 3 boys. I love men. It isn't anything towards them. It's just something inside of me that I don't want to go through ever again in my life. I don't need it there. I don't want it there. And it really does come with most relationships, not necessarily the infidelity part, but the relationship stress comes with most relationships. So it's a tough one. And I feel free from that now. I feel like I'm growing, I'm relaxing more internally, that I'm more at peace. And everything I do from this point forward in my life, because of my age, I seek peace. I want peace. I want a smooth ride until the end. I don't want this bumpy road that I have taken most of my life. And I think that's because as I get older and time is running out, I want the best that it can be. And it can be good with a partner too. I'm not saying I'm even 100% opposed to it. If something happened where all these things came into play and it was super peaceful, yes, I would be open to it. I just don't foresee that happening because this is only number 1 on my list. There's more things that a relationship would take away from me. Even though it may give some things, it would take something away from me as well. So another thing is financially. That's a big one. It hits hard when you go from 2 incomes to 1, but I always had trouble with that whole concept because every relationship I had pretty much, other than my first marriage, I seem to be contributing more to the household, even though most of the time my partner made more money. But because I was more dedicated, I guess, to putting the money back into the family, I became the giver or the bigger giver of the finances. And my partner would have more options and choices with theirs. So now I am in control of my finances. Like I said, my children have almost become self-sufficient and they're on their way to being on their own. And I can do what I please with my finances. If I want to splurge and buy a bunch of flowers, I can do that. If I want to make investments, I can make those choices and I can do that. If I want to hoard my money and stack it away, I can do that. The power is within me to make those decisions. I don't have to ask permission anymore to spend money the way I choose. And a lot of the ways that I spend money are kind of unique. So I've talked about this a lot in the past in videos, and how I conserve or how I splurge on certain things and conserve in other areas. So I kind of have my own system that I've had my own whole life since I was 19, because I was raising a family from that age on, and I had to find creative ways to keep our home and our life exciting and beautiful. So I have my system down, and now I can use it. And I don't have any resentment because somebody else isn't putting in. That's a huge one, that knot in your stomach all the time, that kind of anger, like, why is it I'm always the one, paying for things? Maybe they'll contribute to landscaping, but not house cleaning. So, here I'm paying for the landscaping and I'm doing the house, whatever. There's just these resentments that build up. And so I don't have that anymore. I have peace in that area. I have financial peace. If I make a bad decision, it's on me, but I have peace, and that is what is different inside of me. So this is going to sound really trivial, but it's not. And I will tell you why. Picking my own entertainment. It sounds silly and trivial, but it's not, because it goes deeper than that. Have you ever gotten in the car, and often your partner might get in there before you, and everything's already set up? The music or the podcast or the sports team game that's going to run on the radio the entire drive. Well, that happened to me a lot. I would have things that I desired, but it just wasn't worth the battle. It was just easier just to say, whatever you like, But then again, I was staring out the window wondering, what would my life be like if I could just hop in the car and turn on my podcast or my music, or have no music or have nothing? What would that be like for me? Like, I never knew that my whole life from age 19 till now. And the same goes true for like the living room. I don't watch much TV, but the TV was on every second of the day that I was home. And should I want to watch TV, there was already somebody in the middle of watching TV. So I didn't have that option unless I wanted to go in my room and be alone. But there you go. Relationship tension if I were to do that. So entertainment options and restaurants. Which restaurant do you want to go to? So there's a lot of compromising. Nothing wrong with that. But it's just kind of tiring and not always peaceful. And there's a lot of giving, especially when you have a large family. And movies, which movie do you want to go to? All that kind of stuff. All those choices now are up to me. This sounds really selfish. And it is. That's the whole point of it. Sometimes we give so much that we give our entire self away over a lifetime. And I've just found that I don't want to do that anymore. That I want to explore who I am. That I want to feed some of those hungers that I have inside of me that haven't been fed, or at least not in the proper way. So divorce changed me in that way. And I think, again, it has something to do with the age of my divorce, because I feel like time is running out for me to be me. And that doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to younger people. I think you can implement some of this in your life within a relationship. The whole point of it is to not get lost, to find yourself and to be yourself. It's not about the radio or the music. It's not about the movie. It's not, about the TV show. It is about choices and knowing who you are, knowing what your desires are, and finding ways to incorporate that into your world as you're trekking through life so you don't get lost. But I did, and a lot of women have, probably a lot of men too. And then we wake up one day and we go, oh, yeah, I don't even know who I am. Where I put my attention. A lot of you know that I lost a child in 2018. She was 27 years old. Not fair at all. And I have a lot of grief, mourning, and resentment from that. But one thing that came out of that is I realized that I had relationships, while I was raising my children. And a lot of attention went toward those relationships. A lot of attention went toward that relationship stress, financial stress, all those things we're talking about. Well, you know what happened when all that attention went there? It took away from my children and my family. And I don't ever want to miss the boat again. I don't ever want to miss a signal. I don't ever want to miss a special moment. So now I can choose to put my attention where it needs to be instead of on these other things that suck you in. And for me, my attention importance, that should really be a phrase, is my children, enjoying them until they really are out secure on their own. And even then, I'm finding that being a mother doesn't stop when they're 18. And I don't have to be in their space all the time, but my attention needs to be focused there. It's not that I have to do that, and it's not that I'm giving something up to do that. That is my preference. If your preference is attention on a partner, that's fine. Because again, this isn't right or wrong. This is me and how I grew through this process. And that was a big thing for me. If I could go back in life while my children were younger and I was spending all this time on relationship stress, I would, in a heartbeat, take that back and find a way to be the person I am today within that relationship, or find a way to disconnect in a way where my attention didn't get absorbed by so much drama. Instead, it was turned where I wanted it to. And it's not only attention towards family or whatever, it's attention towards your passions and your journey and all those things that make you whole. So since my divorce, since my children are growing up, I have now been able to blossom and find out who I am. Hence the YouTube videos. I love this. This is my passion now. I have a couple channels and I do different things, but all the creativity that I felt my whole life, I can put my attention toward now without hurting anyone, without leaving them in the dust. And that's the important thing for me. That's why I don't want to go back. I want to go forward, and I want to nurture and feed that person that I'm becoming, so that this little bit of journey that I have left, I can live my purpose. I can serve my purpose. My purpose is my children, so that attention needs to be there. And whatever walk I'm supposed to be doing in life, that is also my purpose. And I'm finding it in a lot of different ways. And this is one of them, putting my attention in a place that I feel like I was designed to do, if that makes sense. Okay, here's a big one. Again, this might sound trivial, but it's not. It's deeper than that. Sleep. Sleep is a big one. So I recall so many times, like with my partner working a different shift, and they would maybe get up at 4 in the morning or whatever, and I didn't have to get up till 6. Well, I'm woken up at 4 in the morning. You know, I'm a night owl, so I might want to go to bed and have the light on and read or whatever, but you get trapped into this space where you kind of have to work together on that. And I found that most of the time it just wasn't pleasant, you know? Like, I either had to go to bed very early, despite the fact that I didn't have to get up early in order to be with that person, or I had to go to bed late and walk into a pitch black room, you know, and get into bed quietly, hoping I don't wake anyone up. And so that was uncomfortable. And, you know, I live differently. Sleep is so important, especially as I age. And I don't want to have to compromise that. There's other things that happen, you know, and I need my sleep. That just takes precedence now. And it's not that, it's the peacefulness I have now. I can't even tell you. I can't tell you. You know, it's a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to distract anyone from a relationship. Please, relationships are a beautiful thing. But I just am on a different journey right now. And I wanted to share it so that you can get ideas of either ways you can incorporate that into your life, in your relationship, or, you know, whatever, just to give you ideas to help you. If you're out of one, instead of being so negatively affected by it, maybe you could find some beauty and peace in it that you can grab onto and shape your new world. So yeah, sleep is huge. Tossing and turning and waking each other up or snoring, things like that. Or I sleep with the light on and they sleep in the dark. And it just becomes this huge unpeaceful thing. Even if you compromise and each other compromises, you only get half of what you want or a quarter of what you want. And honestly, I didn't really know what I wanted until now. Now I do. And it's what I have right now. And I want to hold on to that. And I don't want to rock the boat. And I don't want to start over and give that up. So that's one of the reasons why I choose to stay single, I guess, at my age, or just to protect my world. This is so big for me. I don't even know how to emphasize it enough. For some people, it's not a big deal. But my whole life, I've wanted a clean and organized house. And I felt like I spent decades trying to accomplish that with other people in the household, and it never worked. But I spent most of my life trying to keep a home, trying to keep things organized, trying to keep things presentable and clean and tidy and laundry and, you know, everything. And I always felt like there was someone coming up behind me, scattering crumbs, you know, that I'd have to chase after later. And I felt like the kids were somewhat controllable because, you know, you train them, you get them hooks and you tell them to put their jacket on a hook and that kind of thing, or to pick up their shoes in twice. But when you have a partner who has their own autonomy, they don't have to abide by your rules because they're not children. And everybody has their own habits and their own ways of living. And my way has always been entirely polarizing compared to who I was with. And it's always been this struggle in my life. You know, it's always been something I wanted so bad, because it takes so much energy to take care of all of that. And I don't want anything that takes energy away from me at this point in my life. And not only that, resentment would build. You know, there's this disrespect thing. I understand that, you know, people get tired and all that, but it just felt like more than that to me. It felt like I was going this way, he was going that way. And it was just this constant opposites. And I was always scampering, trying to hold it together. So now I live in this peaceful environment. It's just huge. It's so huge. I know where everything is. If I need something, I know right where to find it. I don't have to pick up behind people. I can create this peaceful world around that. I don't have all this polarizing tension around cleanliness and organization and keeping a household. And so that is something, it's so huge. I don't know why it seems so trivial when I talk about it, but it's so huge. The car, keeping the car organized. I don't have trash in my car. If I eat a piece of gum and there's a wrapper, when I leave my car, I take the wrapper with me. And other people live differently. And I'm not saying it's bad or it's horrible, but I don't want to be in a car where there's trash. But I was forced to my entire life. And me and my kids had this fun little rule that whenever we got out of the car, whether it was for, you know, going to the grocery store, so when we'd leave the car, it'd say, you have to pick up 3 pieces of trash. Because there's always inevitably, you know, we stopped at fast food or whatever. And so the kids would find something, whether it was a string or something. And so everyone would pick up 3 pieces of something in the car. And it kind of maintained the car to a certain level. It was never, ever very, very clean. But it maintained it in a household of chaos, you know. It helped. So we had little fun things like that. But for the most part, my partners did not follow that guideline. And if I were to get into their car, I didn't want to be there. It was so bad. And so we'd often take my car, but then there would be a trail left behind in my car. So now I have this peaceful thing. I hop in my car and it's the way I want it to be. It's the way I left it. It is the way, you know, I want to come into my vehicle. So it's in so many different ways of life, from the refrigerator to the pantry to the car to the house, you name it. And to the way you leave your bed. I don't make my bed every day, but I have my routines, and everything is just, it's not good or bad or better or anything. It's peaceful. So incorporating all this peace into my life has transcended my life exponentially. It's crazy how satisfying it is. And I realized that I lived so much of my life without it. If you made it this far, thank you. I'm so glad, because I think these are really good points to think about. But I just have a couple more. I have 3 more that I want to share. One is cooking, and I'll go through this quick because it's obvious. Choices, right? You either cook or you don't. You either eat or you don't. You go out or you eat in. Whatever is your choice. And if you go out, you go out wherever you choose. I don't mind compromising much in some of those things. You know, I've always had to with children, of course. But there's something so peaceful to not have to worry about it anymore. To just do whatever comes natural for me that day, at that moment, whenever. Okay, this is crazy. I'm going to say that just being me is so much more peaceful. Little things like, I don't have to try and be sexy all the time, you know? I don't even know if I can say that on here. But that in and of itself is one of the hugest transformations of my life. Not always trying to appeal to somebody in that way. I can be me, a human. I can wear comfortable pajamas instead of other things. Oh, this is huge. You're going to laugh at me, and I can't believe I'm even saying this on camera, but I'm going to say it. I like those big, giant cotton underwear that come up to my belly button. I love them. They are so comfortable. And you turn around in bed and they don't roll down. I mean, they are so comfortable. I'm gonna link them below. I'm just gonna show you what they are because they're freaking life-changing. And you know what? If I was with a partner, there's zero chance I could wear those things. And I love them. Cotton, soft, snuggy, I'm not giving them up. I'm not. So yeah, that's a big one. Wear makeup or not, even though I pretty much do a little bit every day. But things like that, I can wear my comfy tennis shoes, which is really important as you age. You have to wear different footwear, and it's not always attractive to men, I'm sorry, but it's just not. And I don't want to feel like I'm frumpy because I'm comfortable and I'm being good to my body. And that's how I would feel if I was with another person. And so, as silly as that sounds, it all goes so much deeper. It's about peace. It's about being me, just being a walking human without having to try and be somebody I'm not. It doesn't mean I don't want to look pretty or anything like that. But I'm aging, let's face it. My body's changing. I'm different. I don't want the stress of having to appease somebody else's thirst, if you know what I mean. And so that's brought me a whole lot of peace. Now, this is one of the most transformative things in my life, and I'm going to do a whole video about it, how ambience has transformed my world. I almost feel like crying because this is so big. Like, ambience is creating the spiritual feeling around you that wraps its arms around you and holds you and comforts you and makes you feel those butterflies in your stomach. It is so huge. If you haven't experienced it, you don't know what I'm talking about. Probably you're thinking I'm a lunatic. But I am telling you, I have set up my world, my house, my office, my car, my world for ambience. It is this, it's like when you see on a film where somebody sets up the bath and there's candles and there's florals and there's scents and the lighting's just right. Everything is just right. The warmth, the fluffy towels, all of those feelings are ambience. It contributes to the experience. You can hop in a bathtub or a shower and get clean. But if you did it the other way, you get nurtured. And that's what it's done for my life. I have set up my home where I have those candles that are on a timer, So they pop on and off at the right time every day. So I open my door and I walk into a world of peace, pampering, comfort, calm. It is so beautiful. I've done my office up to have ambiance. There's candles, you know. I put background videos on my TV with music and on my computers. And I have I'm looking at them right now. I'll probably put some B-roll up. My accomplishments laid out of the beautiful notebooks that I make and, some of the poems I've written. And they feed that peaceful, soft, internal feeling that I get from my world that I'm creating. In the past, I was never able to have that. I would walk in the house and within 2 seconds, that television is on. There's always someone, lounged out there and the lights are on. There's a lot of yelling and screaming for sports games and messes from snacks. And, it was a different environment. Nothing wrong with that. That's really fun. And in fact, I like to do it sometimes. But my whole world now revolves around ambience. And everything I have, from the fluffy blanket behind me that is soft and luxurious and makes me feel good. But there's so much beauty in it, not just aesthetically pleasing. It is comforting. It's relaxing. We always say, like, oh, that candle smells so good. Oh, that warm towel feels so good. Or the sunset's so beautiful. All these things are what I'm talking about. Surrounding yourself with all those things that give you that feeling. Well, I have really intentionally made my world full of ambience. And there's no way I could do that with a partner. Impossible. I have never met anybody who has all the same feelings and comforts of ambiance. And I have found that to be one of the most satisfying things I have ever experienced in my life. It sounds silly on the surface, but it has shaped my world post-divorce in ways I could have never, ever, ever imagined. So, ambiance is huge. So that's all of my points. But to summarize everything together, put it all into a little package, into a little box. The common element is that I now get to be me. All of those things together are me. And I've never had that before. So after 60 years, I'm 60 years now, 60 years of life of trying to shape everyone else's world, I now get to shape my own. And that's why I choose to be single. There's nothing wrong with men. There is nothing wrong with relationships. There is nothing negative toward anybody else about this. It's only positive towards me internally, spiritually, my journey, my walk in life. I have been transformed. Not only transformed, I transcend. My life has changed drastically forever, and it feels so good. And there may be somebody come in someday that we find some commonality and all that, and that would be glorious. That'd be glorious. I'm not opposed to it at all. But what I am opposed to is giving that up, the other stuff, because it's too good. It is really good, We don't give up a hot fudge sundae for a carrot. So that's the best analogy I can use. But Should somebody produce a hot fudge sundae that's equal to mine, I'm willing to eat it. Put it that way. So that's it. Peace to you. I hope you got something out of this. And again, I hope that you look at it from the perspective I'm trying to share, which is it's all about you, and not in a selfish way, kind of in a selfish way, but you can incorporate some of this thinking into your life, even if you're in the midst of those first decades that I was in for so long, that, you know, you don't have to get lost. You can find yourself with a partner too. I know you can. It's just I didn't. And I want more than a piece of the pie. I want the whole pie. But you can find your pieces too. You don't have to leave anybody. That's not what this is about. It's just about finding you and knowing who you are and growing and being yourself on the journey and path that you were designed to go on.